Welcome back to another FPL video. Today we're talking about the Game Week 2 team selection. We've got a deadline yet again on a Friday, so be sure to tune in for that Friday deadline stream. And I actually have made one free transfer already. The plan was to roll and just to have 2 free transfers heading into Game Week 3, but I have pulled the trigger, and I think prices did have a little bit to do with it. It's not something I would highly encourage many of you to do, but with one of my players having a long-term injury, I felt it was necessary to make that adjustment and bolster my squad depth. Otherwise, I could be in a position where I might have a few issues heading into the next few weeks. So finally, I've had that sorted. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below, and if you end up enjoying this video, be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. But without further ado, let's jump straight into this video. First up, let's talk about how I did in Game Week 1, and Onana capped off a pretty good week overall with a 9-pointer. He made 6 saves, got a bonus point, was a bit lucky towards the end because he did clatter into a Wolves defender. It probably should have been a penalty, but Onana still got that 9-pointer, and those of us that had him obviously were very lucky in that regard, and he is the highest owned goalkeeper for a reason. I think he's going to have that high saves and bonus points potential over someone like Edison, who will probably keep more clean sheets, but I think Onana will get more points overall, and I'm very happy with my selection thus far. But there is going to be a big debate, especially those of you with Onana and Turner, about which goalkeeper to start, and I've made my feelings clear in the recent streams and videos, and we'll talk about that later on in the team selection portion of this video. But very happy with Onana so far, and I'm expecting more big things to come. There were no clean sheets throughout my defensive line, but Saliba got an assist. He won the ball high up and set up Saka for that screamer to put Arsenal 2-0 ahead. And I was very lucky here because I made a switch from Gabriel to Saliba in my deadline stream with just a few minutes to go. I was already contemplating the move around 10 minutes before the deadline, and shortly afterwards I confirmed the transfer. It was very difficult to make that transfer go through because of all the issues with the app and the website, and I was very lucky there. I have to admit it. I wasn't aware of all the news and rumours and leaks of Gabriel being potentially dropped, which was a huge surprise when I found out, potentially the biggest surprise of them all. So instead of getting that 1-pointer from Gabriel, who came off the bench, I got a 5-pointer from Saliba, and there are no issues really or concerns about Saliba long term. I think Gabriel will come back into the side, especially with the news that Timber could potentially be out for 7 months. That is a huge blow to Arsenal, and I actually wouldn't be as confident in their defensive assets now, but I still think Saliba and Gabriel present very good options at their price. It's just a shame that Arsenal have already been hit with so many injury problems, even Man City have as well, but they have to adapt, and let's see what they can do from Game Week 2 onwards. Then we move on to the other defenders, including Ben Chilwell, who also got an assist and a 7-pointer this time with some bonus points, and he was Chelsea's best player in my opinion from an FPL perspective. I think Enzo Fernandez was the other standout, but I wouldn't consider him in this game. But Chilwell was so impressive. I made a late switch as well to him after we got the news that John Stones was benched. I was aware of that before the deadline, and I immediately made the switch to Chilwell, who's already in my thinking. I wanted to bring him into my team, but I did favour the Man City chances of a clean sheet in Game Week 1, which is why I had Stones. But once I knew he wasn't starting, I decided not to risk it. I didn't even go for a Kanji, who I knew would start, and instead I went for Chilwell for his attacking potential and good long-term fixtures. And after Liverpool scored, I was thinking, maybe I made a mistake here. Chelsea finished 12th last season, and despite a decent pre-season, they're still conceding goals. But Chilwell was very impressive in the summer with multiple goals and assists, and he also got a goal rightfully disallowed, to be fair, straight after he got the assist, and he had plenty of chances throughout the game to create something and also to score a goal himself. So I'm very happy with this selection, and even in Game Week 2 away to West Ham, I think Chilwell could be a very good option, one of the very best defenders this week. And the final defender is Pervis Stupinian, another one who got an assist right towards the end of the game, and he also got 3 bonus points in this case because he got a yellow card, but that wasn't enough to deter him from getting maximum bonus points as a defender despite conceding, and also with Brighton scoring 4 goals. So it just shows how good of an asset Stupinian is, the best I think that Brighton have to offer defensively, and I'm very happy with that selection as well. So despite some concerns heading into the future, even with Arsenal potentially with Timber being out for 7 months and also the Gabriel situation, I'm very happy with my defensive line, and when you look at it, only Onana kept the clean sheet. The midfield was a bit mixed bag overall, but Bukayo Saka was the standout. He got a 10-pointer, and his ownership is actually extremely high. He's the second most highly owned player in the game, and with good reason. I was considering captaining him over Erling Haaland, and it was a very close battle in the end. He got that goal, maximum bonus points, and I have to say that goal was an absolute screamer into the top corner. Apart from that, he had a decent game, but I don't think it was Saka's best. I think Martinelli was the clear standout from the Arsenal midfielders in terms of overall performance, and he got an assist to set up that opening goal for Eddie Nketiah, a brilliant piece of skill. And I have to say, Saka and Martinelli is a fantastic duo, and I don't have too many regrets about going for this Arsenal double up in the midfield. But I'm having a few concerns, I think, of the Man United double up. So I have Bruno Fernandes and also Marcus Rashford, both of them blanked, and I was always expecting a bit of a tight game between them and Wolves, maybe a 1 or 2-0 victory for Man United. But I did expect either Bruno Fernandes or Rashford to be involved, and Bruno Fernandes had no shots at all, while Rashford had one shot on target and was pretty anonymous throughout the rest of the game. And Man United had a really poor performance overall, and I'm liking the defensive assets, particularly Onana, despite conceding over 2 XG, but these Man United attackers could be a problem. I will be keeping them because in Game Week 3 they are facing Nottingham Forest, and I'm expecting a more high-scoring game there, but it is a bit of a concern. And the good thing about it is that there are plenty of options you can downgrade either Bruno Fernandes or Rashford to in the future, such as James Maddison, who really caught my eye in Game Week 1. So there are potential avenues in the future, but for now I will be keeping these two Man United assets, but I am having a few concerns about them in the long term. And the final midfielder is Mitoma, who got an assist. He had a pretty decent performance overall, but still fairly underwhelming considering Brighton scored 4 times and he was only involved once. But Brighton have so many good attacking players that this could be the case quite often. And if you look at the end of last season, Mitoma had 1 goal contribution in the final 8 or 9 games, and during pre-season only 1 assist. So it's not like he's been in absolute great form, but the same can be said for Mbeumo, who had a great end to the last season, but in pre-season only 1 goal from a penalty, and he also did the same thing in Game Week 1. But there are plenty of options around 6.5 million, including Eze, who I'm not too keen on because of the fixtures, but he created 7 chances, which was the most of any player in Game Week 1. And I also like Mbeumo, of course. And then you're looking at the likes of Maddison, who is a bit more expensive, but I think it's worth going up that extra 1 million to get Maddison. And I think a very popular move around Game Week 4 or 5 is Mitoma to the Spurs captain potentially. He is the vice captain at the moment, and when Son is off the pitch, he will be the captain. But that is my midfield 5. Very mixed bag. Mitoma got a return, same with Martinelli, and I was very encouraged, I think, by the performance of Martinelli. The points weren't that great. Saka with that double-digit return, and then blanks from those 2 Man United midfielders. I had returns from my 2 forwards in Game Week 1, including Erling Haaland with a brace. I was actually predicting this in the last team selection video. Let's see if I can get my prediction right for Game Week 2 in regards to how many goals Erling Haaland scores. But a 13-pointer, just like last season where he got a brace against West Ham United. It just seems like he loves playing away from home against a team in claret and blue, and Erling Haaland is the best FPL asset, period. So unfortunately, his ownership is only going to get even higher, and he's actually now broken a record. I think he's now at almost 91% ownership, and no player in FPL history has ever reached 90% ownership. But it just goes to show he is absolutely essential, and you don't want to go without him, especially when the viable alternative in Harry Kane has gone to Bayern Munich. So unfortunately, we're stuck with Erling Haaland, and we're going to captain him pretty much every single week. The final player in my starting 11 was Ollie Watkins, who got an assist fairly early on, but Aston Villa went on to get absolutely obliterated by Newcastle, and that was a huge surprise for me. But Ollie Watkins remains a solid FPL option, and facing Everton at home next while everyone is looking to buy Isak, it seems, I think Ollie Watkins will outscore him, and he'll be one of the best forwards to buy over the next 4 or 5 game weeks. So I'm still very happy to keep him despite maybe an underwhelming Game Week 1 performance, but there were promising signs there from Aston Villa offensively despite getting absolutely wrecked in the end by Newcastle, and I would have some concerns about them defensively, but in terms of their attacking assets like DRB and Ollie Watkins, I don't have too many concerns in those positions. So let's now go on to the captaincy and also my overall rank and all those key metrics that we analyze every single week before moving on to the team selection. I captain Erling Haaland for Game Week 1. I was considering the possibility of going for Bukayo Saka or an Arsenal midfielder, and even if you did go for Saka, only a difference of 3 points between him and the Norwegian robot up front. And as you can see, one of the best starts I've had to a season in terms of overall rank. So I got 85 points, which isn't my highest Game Week 1 score ever, but relatively speaking, it was a very good effort, and I'm now at 214k. So I have to say, not too many complaints. I think the biggest disappointment was the two Man United midfielders, but apart from that, everyone else in my starting 11 produced a return, and those on my bench, of course, were very underwhelming, but that doesn't matter. You don't want to see too many bench points anyway. So let's now go on to the team selection, starting from the goalkeeper all the way to the forward line, and I have a big dilemma already between the sticks between Onana and Turner. There was a difference of 7 points between Turner and Onana in Game Week 1, but I am backing Turner because of the fixture at home to Sheffield United at home. This is not completely set in stone, but it's something I've been discussing over the past week or so when looking ahead to Game Week 2, and the plan was always to start Turner over Onana. And as things stand, I am also going for that decision. And I have to say, Nottingham Forest were very impressive defensively against Arsenal, and the Gunners didn't create too many clear-cut opportunities, and Turner made some pretty decent saves. He made 5 overall, and Onana made 6, kept the clean sheet, but Man United conceded more XG, and they're now facing one of the most defensive teams in the league with Tottenham Hotspur away from home. And with Man United's record away from home last season, especially against top-half opposition, I would favour Turner at home to a newly promoted club in Sheffield United at home, who looked a bit toothless up front in Game Week 1. Let me know what you're going to do down in the comment section below. And I created a poll yesterday, and 68% of you have gone for the American international, so it might not seem like such a tough decision, but I still think it is. And if you are backing Man United to keep a clean sheet, or to at least be competitive and improve upon last season and their travels, then I think Onana is definitely worth considering, because his effective ownership will be much lower than it will be in most given game weeks, considering he is the highest owned goalkeeper. So Turner is my goalkeeper between the sticks for now, but that could certainly change by the Friday deadline. I am most likely going for a back three yet again, and Saliba did extremely well against Crystal Palace away last season. Remember, this was the Game Week 1 opening fixture, and that was Saliba's first competitive appearance for Arsenal, and he took the world by storm and showed his quality, and he could do so yet again, especially if Gabriel gets back into the side, which I'm expecting. And I think Saliba looks a bit shaky sometimes when Gabriel isn't there, and that includes the Nottingham Forest performance where he got the assist, but he also made a big mistake which allowed Brennan Johnson to have a golden opportunity, and that could have put Forest 1-0 up, and that would have been extremely difficult for Arsenal to come back from. But Saliba is a top defender. He has so much potential, and I'm very happy to have him in my team, but I would like Gabriel to get back into the side because it makes Arsenal more solid defensively and brings out the best in Saliba. Then we move on to the other defenders, and Ben Chilwell is going to be one of the highly sought assets in the coming weeks, and he's facing West Ham away, and I think from Game Week 3 onwards, he is probably the best defender over the next 5 or 6 game weeks. And there are some people asking me, what about Reece James? He is also a good asset, but he's more injury prone. He also had some tiredness after the end of the Liverpool game, and I don't think he was as impressive as Chilwell in that match, but also in pre-season. Chilwell just seems far more offensive. He's likely to get goals and assists, and whilst James can also get a number of goal contributions, I just don't think it's a close battle at the moment, as it usually is. And typically, I think most of us favour Reece James, but at this moment in time, Ben Chilwell seems to be in far better form and also in a better position tactically to get those goal contributions to add on top of the clean sheets that Chelsea will keep very soon. Then the last defender is Pervis Stupinian. The last time Brighton played Wolves, it was a 6-0 victory. That's not going to happen this time round. I'm telling you that right now, because Wolves have that managerial bounce with Gary O'Neill. They had one of the best performances in Game Week 1 away to Old Trafford, and I think that was the first time that Man United conceded so many shots at Old Trafford since 2005. 23 shots there for Wolves, and also when Wolves went to Brighton last season at the Amex, it was away from home, and they also had secured, well, safety, should we say, and circumstances were completely different managers as well. And Brighton still look strong, but they have lost Moises Caicedo and McAllister, who actually didn't start that game against Wolves. But I'm looking at a few different factors, and I think this will be a tougher game than most of us expect. And I wouldn't be surprised if Wolves scored. They still look a bit toothless up front, I would argue. They create chances, but they don't have those lethal finishers to tuck them away. Having said all of that, Estupiñán still has a decent chance of a clean sheet, but I'm more worried about the attacking potential for the Ecuadorian, but also for the midfielders and forwards. The midfield five will remain untouched, so Bukayo Saka will be away from home to Crystal Palace. I'm not so sure if he's a great captaincy choice here in a London derby. I think it could be a cagey game. I can only see 1 or 2 goals in it, and Arsenal scoring 3+ goals is fairly unlikely this week in my opinion, but you never know. It could still be a 3-1 to Arsenal, and that would favour the likes of Bukayo Saka, but I'm expecting a bit of a cagey game here between the Gunners and the Eagles, and that also applies to Martinelli, of course, so the ceiling might not be that high for the Arsenal players. And if you go back to last season in Game Week 1, Saka and Martinelli didn't have really high scores. So it could be a similar thing here again, where they get a goal contribution like an assist, but they might not get those double-digit hauls that you're expecting or hoping for. And the same definitely applies to the Man United assets in Bruno Fernandes away to Tottenham, where I think he got an assist last season, but high ceiling, I'm not so sure about that. And despite Spurs being very suspect defensively, and that could favour someone of the calibre of Marcus Rashford, I still don't see a double-digit return or multiple goals / assists, but it could be like a singular goal contribution each between all 4 of these midfielders, and I'd be very happy with that considering the fixtures and facing such tough opponents away from home. And the same goes for Mitoma. I'd be very surprised here if he got 10+ points. Maybe I'm being a bit too pessimistic with these midfielders. They are good selections still, but because of the nature of the fixtures, particularly with Man United facing Tottenham Hotspur and Arsenal facing Crystal Palace, I just don't see too many points here, and I'm expecting a drop-off from my Game Week 1 performance, and anything above 80 I'd be very happy with. A lot of people will be looking at this fixture between Manchester City and Newcastle and thinking, you know what, there is an opportunity here to go against Erling Haaland and Newcastle could get a result. And all of these things are true, but I'm still expecting Man City to win and to score 2+ goals, and for Erling Haaland to score a goal, just like he did last season at the Etihad. So a 2-0 win for Man City is what I'm predicting, and as a result, I still think Erling Haaland is the front runner for the captaincy, but his ceiling is certainly not that high as it usually is. And if you have Mohamed Salah, I would definitely captain him over Erling Haaland, even if there is this debate about Salah having the Game Week 2 curse. I wouldn't think too much about that, and I would go for him as the captain against Bournemouth at home. And my other striker is another contender for the captaincy, facing Everton at home. Ollie Watkins could do extremely well, and looking beyond Erling Haaland and potentially Bukayo Saka, I think Watkins has the highest ceiling of any of my players this week, so he is in contention. He's in the top 3, I would argue. And if I want to go a bit different, Ollie Watkins as the captain could be the way I'm looking to go. But let's now move on to the captaincy, talk about my current armband and also the bench, where I've made one free transfer, which seems a bit surprising to make a transfer to basically bolster my bench and squad depth, but I felt it was necessary with Tyrone Mings being out with an ACL. He could be missing several months of Premier League action, and I was looking to bring in one of the hottest properties at 4.5 million, and I think he could be a fantastic player, not just for the next game week, but for the next 5 to 10. If you've seen my recent videos, this will come as no surprise. Rico Henry has come in, and he's not entirely close to a price rise, but Tyrone Mings is on the brink of going down in price, and I didn't want to be in a position where I was forced to go for a 4 million defender, or that I needed to downgrade one of my players in order to get a 4.5/5 million defender, because I always like having a bit of squad depth, at least one decent option on the bench, and that's what I have now in Rico Henry. He could feasibly start over someone like Mitoma, Estupinian, even Saliba potentially, so he is someone that could still find a way into my starting 11. As for Bulldog and Osula, they will also make up the rest of my bench. I'm not expecting to start them, and there are rumours that Bulldog has a bit of a calf injury, so he could be a concern for Game Week 2. But apart from that, I'm quite happy, and the only team selection headaches I have is Onana versus Turner and potentially finding a way to incorporate Rico Henry into my starting 11. So that just leaves the captaincy for now, and unfortunately I am going a bit boring here with Erling Haaland. I think he'll score in potentially a 2-0 win for Man City, and Saka will be my vice captain, but Ollie Watkins could be the wild card. He could be the one I put the armband on to be a bit different, and that's also something I want to test out using Drafthound, which I'm going to show you next. They have so many different tools to bolster your FPL squad and for you to enjoy the game to the fullest extent possible. And after that, I'll show you briefly my Game Week 3 preview using fpl.team. So let's now head straight over to Drafthound and talk about any little things that we could tinker. It's an extremely close call, according to Drafthound, between Turner and Onana. Only 0.1 expected points separating the two, despite Turner having a much better fixture at home as well. But Onana has that high ceiling because of saves and bonus points, and even the captaincy, vice-captaincy, the order of my bench, everything is suggested by Drafthound. That's the way I've got things set up currently, and I'm relatively happy with that as well. And if you look at some other metrics here, expected points 59.7, and also expected minutes 78, and the average ownership is 31%. So this is a very template team, unfortunately, and maybe in the future things will be a bit more interesting and I will go for some lower owned picks. So keep an eye out for all those differentials on this channel. But Drafthound, all of these, algorithms and all these predicted points, I actually agree with the vast majority of them as well. But I am considering starting Rico Henry over Saliba because I have a feeling Crystal Palace could score against Arsenal, especially with Timber out, and also the way Arsenal have been defending in pre-season, and also against Nottingham Forest. And if you also look at a few other metrics here, such as the player rankings, Salah is top, even over Erling Haaland, and it's actually by a significant amount, and it's a difference of 1.1 expected points. So if you have Salah, I would highly recommend you captain him this week, and I think that's a really good way of differentiating yourself from the rest of the crowd, and also I think he's going to do extremely well. You can see Liverpool scoring 2+ goals, and also for Salah to be heavily involved. He had a very good performance against Chelsea, despite Liverpool tailing off towards the end of that game. And Trent Alexander-Arnold is another one highly recommended by the algorithm, and he's actually not too far away from Erling Haaland in terms of expected points. So that is Drafthound. There's also so many different tools that I've shown you in other videos. Be sure to check out the link in the description below. Let's now move on to fpl.team and talk about Gameweek 3. I could make yet another transfer in Game Week 3, but as things stand, starting Onana at home to Nottingham Forest and having a back three of Saliba, Stupinian and Chilwell, all with home fixtures, looks very solid. A midfield 5 as well, with some very enticing fixtures. Rashford, Saka, Martinelli, Bruno Fernandes and Mitoma, and a solid front 2 of Erling Haaland and Ollie Watkins. And I would consider captaining a Man United player here, but I need to see an improvement offensively. Even against Tottenham Hotspur, they could fail to score, for example, but if they create chances and they're a bit unlucky, that would be very encouraging heading into Game Week 3, and captaining someone like Rashford over Erling Haaland could be the play. As for the bench, it would be Turner, Rico Henry, Baldock, Al Nassr, so things look pretty solid here as well, and Rico Henry could feasibly start at home to Crystal Palace. And in terms of expected points, according to fpl.team, it is 64.2, and to compare it to Drafthound, for example, for Game Week 2, the expected points is actually 55, so Drafthound does favour my team a little bit more than fpl.team do, so maybe that's something else to consider as well. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below. Which transfers are you making? Are you going to be rolling over your transfers? I think if you don't have a defender or a player with a ACL or a long-term injury like Timber or Tyrone Mings, I think it's worth holding on to your players and having 2 free transfers in Game Week 3. That will be a huge boost to you and an advantage. I felt like I needed to do that move because Tyrone Mings was about to go down in price. I think Rico Henry will eventually go up, and with Brentford's long-term fixtures, I'm very happy to have Rico Henry and his attacking potential. Thank you very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's try to get this video to over 200 likes. Let's keep on pushing towards 19,000 subscribers and beyond. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and you can also check all the links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, and also Drafthound. I'd highly recommend it to all of you. Thank you very much for watching. Like I said, I wish you all the best of luck for Game Week 2, and I'll see you next time.